Hello and welcome to the third part of Angular 4 forms. Now in this tutorial we'll be looking into reactive form. Now in the previous tutorial we saw what is a template driven form. Now we'll start off with the reactive forms. So the first thing we have to do is to import a reactive form module. Now in the previous video we imported form module, so we'll replace that with reactive form module. So yeah, and copy that and import it into the imports array. We'll save this. Now in the previous video we had app component.html. There was a lot of stuff in here, so I've removed all that, and this is a basic input HTML element. Now the first thing I have to do is to use form controls. So now we are going to create a public variable called name and declare that it's a form control. And now we copy this name and then attach that to the input element, saying that this is a form control. The way that we do is something like this: form control name. Now I can just print out name over there like this, and it should just give me the data. Okay, now when I type in here, you can see that the exact same value is printed there. So our form control is getting binded correctly, and we are getting the data. Okay, now that we have created name form control, let's create another form control called age. So that's again a new form control. Now I'll just create a form control and copy the HTML here. So I'll copy this and paste it here and change this to age. Now I'll change that one also to age, so that we get the correct value printed out. So I have two input elements, so you can see both of them are getting printed side by side. Now the design looks quite bad, so let me add some style. So I've already created a few style there, so I'll copy that and add it here. So control click so that I can just write simultaneously. So now I can see that this form fields are getting listed one below the another. Now creating form controls for every other form elements is not a good practice at all. I mean, in fact, it's very tedious. So basically what we need is to have a group that will have a set of form controls inside it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to import form group and create a public variable called let's say call it as form user form, and then create a form group. And inside that form group it's basically going to have an object. So that object will have a name, and that is basically going to be a form control. Okay, and it will also have age, which is again going to be a form control. I'll just copy that and paste it over here. Now we have to make changes inside the form. The first thing is we haven't created a form yet, so let's create a form. We'll copy this and paste it inside the form. Okay, just align it a little bit. Now the next thing is to create the form group. Okay, so the form group has a name called user form. Now the remaining part is not going to change much. So to get the data of the form, all we have to do is to create the curly braces and say user form dot value and put the JSON pipe. So I'll just save this and run this, and I have a problem here. Find control with okay, so let's try to fix this first. So this shouldn't be form control, this should actually be form control name. Okay. The most important thing that is over here is that when you type in the value gets updated, and we are not using ng model at all. So this is primary difference between a template driven form and a reactive form. Now I can set default values here, so I'm giving the name as Hari and the age is 27. When I reload the page, I can see that the default values get populated. It's good to add no validate attribute here, so that it will make sure that the browser there is no default browser validation that's happening in our form. All the validation that we set will be active, so that's useful at times. Now let's look into another shorthand for creating all this. So the next thing is to import form builder. Form builder is again The implementation is different. First, we'll have to create an instance of form builder. So constructor public form builder, and so basically this will create an instance of form builder. Now the next thing is to have a public variable that will hold the form for us. So let's call it user form. Okay, so this is going to be of type, it's not going to be of type form builder. Instead it will be of type form group. So now the next thing is to create the form group. So this dot user form is equal to so this dot form builder dot group. So we create a group. So basically a group will consist of a list of input elements. So our first element is going to be name. So you don't have to create a new form control there. Instead you can just create an array and say that the default value is Hari, and we have an age, and the default value is 27. Okay, I can just remove all this and save this, and let's see what happens. Okay, the form values doesn't the form doesn't have any difference. The result is all the same, but if you look at the code, you can see that the code is far less complicated and easily understandable, so that's a good thing. Now the next thing is to add validators. I can go and add validator.require as a second parameter of name array. So I can copy that and add it to the age array also. Now when I remove the data value from the form input, you can see that the form input turned red. This is because Angular material will give a red color to the invalid form element. So that's done by Angular material. The style has already been written by using Angular material. So if you're using Bootstrap, you might have to use a different thing. Now let's see how we can create a select element. So I'm going to create a variable called food, and that is going to be a string of array. So that basically has Indian, Italian and Chinese food in it. Now inside the template I will have to go and create a select element. So mat select, and we also need a mat options, and then mat option would have an ng4. So basically that is to loop through the food array and then print out all the food that we have. Now we have to add food to our form builder group. So let's copy that and add food and give the default value as Indian, and save this. Now inside HTML we have to register this as a form control name. So let's add that form control name equal to food, and just save this and run this on the browser. So as you can see, we have the drop down coming up, and as I change the value for food also changes. Now let's say we want to add an address to our form. Now address is one key, and that address might have a few other elements in it. For example, it might have the country, state and stuff like that. In that case, what we do is we create a key called address, and then we create a form group inside that. Basically, with the help of form builder, we create a form group. Now the form group will have values like country, then street, state, house number and stuff like that. So we'll save this. Now we have to make the corresponding changes in the template so that we have the form group inside the template. So we'll create a div and add form group name as address, and then we will create the other elements inside the form group. I'll just copy and save all the form group element. So the last one would be house number. So I'll save this and go. Now I'll go back to the form and refresh the form to see how this works. Now one thing I noticed that the form element should have a placeholder so that it looks good. So I'm going to hit control command and then click on each element and then add placeholder. So it helps me to add placeholder in all the elements simultaneously. So I'll just copy and paste this, and that's going to be food, and then so the last one is country. Now the placeholders are working correctly. Now I'll go ahead and start entering values into it. You can see that at the bottom you have the data listed out. I'll just give the PRE tag so that the form fields are the JSON is displayed in a good manner. As I start editing the values of address, you can see that the address JSON changes and updates accordingly. So that's about form group. Now let's add a submit button to our form. So we do an ng submit here, and then when you click the submit button, it's going to call a function called form submit. I'll copy this and create the function inside the controller class. I'll save this. It's not going to do much of a thing. It's just going to simply console.log user.form.value. Okay, one thing I missed out is that I haven't put a text submit button, so I'll go ahead and put that. Now I've put a submit button inside the form. The button is not styled, but it will serve our purpose. I'll enter the value and click on save, and you can see that the console log has the value of that form. Now let's create a new button called load data. So basically this button, when you click on this button is going to mimic an API call and get the data and load it to the form. So load xhr is the button name. So I'm going to write that function here and create a set timeout. Set timeout is basically going to mimic an API call. So let's say that the API call was served after 1000 milliseconds, so that's basically equal to 1 second. Now once that 1 second is completed, we'll just get the data and set that into the form. Okay, so all I have to do is I have to call this .userForm.setValues and pass in the JSON object which will represent the data. So I'll have to create the entire JSON array and then just pass it to set value method of form. So house number, I'll save this and go back to the form and click on load xhr, and after 1 second you can see that the data get populated. Now this works only for the problem with this is that you cannot update a single value. You have to update the whole form. Even though I'm just passing a JSON object, this is not the best way to update a set value. Even though this method works, Angular documentation tells that you have to create a model class and then create an object of that model and then assign it to the value. So I'm going to create a user model, and the user model has a constructor method, and that has a bunch of parameters. So name, age, food, and address. Address is going to be an object of its own, so address is going to be of type address. We'll have to create the address model class. Now I've created an address class which is also going to have a constructor which will accept a few params like country, state, house number, and things like that. Once I add that, I can go ahead and create the user object, and which will also have the address object in it. So I'm going to remove this and then create a new variable called user. So new user, and then pass in the value for the user object. So let's say Ravi 30 Indian, and new address is going to be some values, some random values. Okay, the house number should be a number, and age also should be a number. I've given it as a string, so I'll just rewrite that as a number. Now I'll assign this to another variable called user. In fact, I'll just rename it as user data. So I should have properly used meta names for the classes. Now I can just set the user data directly there, and then save this. Now one thing I missed out is that this export class should actually go above the component declaration. So I'll save this and then run this on the browser. Wait for the browser to reload. Yeah, I think I have still some problems. Okay, so the public is not declared there. Let's reload the page. Okay, now it's working. Okay. Okay, I'll save this because I've just commented out that now I think the form should get set properly. I click on load XHR and I still have issues. So as per this, the name attribute is not public. Okay, so if I go back in there, I can see that the state, street, house numbers are not declared as public. So as a result, our address class would not hold those values. Now let's go and click XHR. As you can see, the data just populated correctly, and we have the JSON also working correctly. Now another thing that I haven't spoken in this video is that when you create model classes, you're not supposed to create it inside the main component controller. You should create a new file and separate that from the component. Now let's try to patch a particular element, input element. So the next thing we are going to do is to add a button which says patch, and then when I click on that, it should update the country to some random countries. So patch country is the click method. I'll copy this and create a method called patch, and then use the user form and call the set value. Just call the patch value method and pass in the JSON. Now what I'm trying to patch here is the country, which is inside the address object. So basically all I have to pass is this array, is this object, and when I click on load patch country, the country name is updated correctly. So that's basically about patch. If you want to update a single input, then you do a patch. Now we are going to add a button which will reset the form. So reset is a function that is triggered when you click on that button. I'll go and create the function inside the component class. So reset function, and basically all it's going to do is take the form and call reset, and when you call this, basically it will reset all the input inside the form. So I'll enter some value in here, and then go ahead and click the reset button, and you can see that the value is resetted. Probably the last thing on this video is going to be to create a form array. So form array basically would hold a set of form group. So I'm going to create a family member object, which is basically going to be a form array. It's going to be an empty form array first. Okay, now I'm going to add a button which says add family member. So basically when I click on that button, it should add a family form group to the family array. So I'll create that function here called add family, and then all I have to do is take the form and get the family member array and push a form group into that. Now the way you would write that is first define the type. So it's going to be a form array type, and that so when you define form array type, you have to import that. So let me import that form array. Okay, and once I do this, I can just copy that and paste it over here, and the form array is this much would be form array, and to that array we are pushing a form builder group, and that form builder group will basically have two things, which is a name and as well as a relation. Let's give a dummy value like Sam, and his relation is husband. So when I click on the form, you can see that the family member got added. Now we need to have, when I click again, a new family member got added. Now this should actually reflect on the template also. Right now it's not it's reflecting on the template. You should have new input element getting added into the form, into the template. That's not working right now. So let's add that. The first thing that we have to do in here is first declare a form array name. Okay, so basically our form array name is going to be family members, and once we declare the form array name, we have to loop through all the form group that is present inside the form array, and then create input elements for that. So the way we access the form groups inside family members is by taking the family members and taking controls inside it. So basically, when you say form family members dot control, what you get is an array of groups. So if you don't follow what I'm saying, just listen to what just watch this and you will get an idea of what we are trying to implement. Now we also get the index of each array, and then basically we take that index and create new form groups. So ideally what we are doing here is that we are taking the family member array and then taking each control, which is essentially going to be a group, and then each control is going to have going to be named as a form group with that index, and inside each index it's going to have input elements for name as well as for relation. Okay, so I have an input element inside, and that's going to be name, and the second one is going to be relation. Now let's run this and see what's happening. I have a lot of errors. Let's say it cannot read property controls. Now this is one common issue that I have spent a lot of time on. I don't think the documentation clearly says this, says how to fix this. Now basically what you have to do is you have to define a getter, and that getter would get the controls. The getter function will automatically be called when you try to get a particular value. So basically I need to get the family members. So I would say get family members, and this function would actually get me the data for the family member array. So I'll just scroll down and copy the family member array. So this is how I get the family member, and I'll return this array and then save this and run the form. Now I can see that I don't have any problem. Now I click on add family. You can see that the Sam and relation just got popped up correctly. The placeholder is incorrect, so I'll just rename that to name and relation, and save this, and then come back to a form here. I click on this add family, and you can see that Sam and husband came up. Now I clicked again to add a new value. So the input element came there, and the value also changed. So that's about how you create a form array and then dynamically get data. So I hope this video is you learned something from this video. I know it wasn't a perfect one, but I think you are able to understand the basic concept. Thank you for watching this video. Have a great day. Bye.